Wait, so what do you mean you guys are doing it by a website now?
Instead, last year we did it as a PDF.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal was always just to do it as a website. So like basically, obviously, so instead of articles in a PDF, there'd be articles there. Instead of us saying, hey, go use these tools on DLF, we can just say, here, click this link, which takes you to this tool on DLF. Like, it's going to make it a lot better and a lot easier to update on the back end and stuff. Like, that was the biggest problem last year is you'd have to update it. It's just a lot of work with a PDF. Like, it's just by the time you finish updating stuff, it's almost obsolete,
Yeah, that makes sense. So you'd have to re-update like the actual form itself instead of just updating a thing.
Right. Like, yeah, you know how it is on the back end, just in WordPress or whatever. You just go in, make the update, hit live, and it's good.
Yeah.
So so I like that. We can do some more stuff that way.
Oh man, are you ready to kick off this Dynasty episode? Did I say episode?
Episode?
I think I said episode.
It's an episode.
It's an episode. It's an epic-sode.
It's an epic episode.
Epic episode. I like that. I think that we should call it that from here on out.
I agree.
All right. Let me find this start button. Where is the start button?
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Welcome on into the epic episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. We have a fun episode coming at y'all where we actually are full of trivia. We are full of adventure, and we are full of special guests, of course, that are joining in through YouTube, youtube.com/fantasy intervention. What's going on, Brad? And of course, we have the episode over there with Toronto Dave. Appreciate you guys for coming in. Make sure you guys hit subscribe and like on youtube.com/fantasy intervention while you're here. And of course, bring those questions because it is Wednesday night's episode. And unfortunately, Jakob was, I believe, feeling a little bit under the weather, so he won't be able to participate.
We couldn't get clearance to get him through customs to get him on the show tonight. As everyone is aware, he's unfortunately Canadian. And with the many drawbacks, there are many drawbacks to being Canadian, but one of them is we can't always get him cleared to be on U.S. airwaves. So no Jakob tonight.
That is very true. Unfortunately, he was not able to join us due to, customs, essentially. So
customs, yeah.
Yeah, customs. They stopped him. So anyways, we will be doing our best to keep you guys entertained and bringing up really obnoxious facts from time to time, as we decide to have little quippy, nonsensical interactions between the two of us. But let's go ahead and let's kick it off talking at Dynasty. This is the time of the year where you get to actually go out and annoy the shit out of all your league mates, right? Like you can send out offers that, for those 2024 draft picks, you can send out offers of players like, Allen Robinson, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, and, a few other players that nobody really wants to make moves on because we don't know what's happening yet. Shane, is this your favorite time of the year to literally send out hundreds and hundreds of offers?
Not quite yet, because a lot of people are still decompressing from the season. Also, some people haven't paid, so they can't make trades. Some commissioners haven't unlocked the trades, which is a little annoying. But yeah, I do like making moves. I've made a few trades in several of my leagues.
I saw you when you made with Tyler Gunther over there at Dynasty Happy Hour.
Which one? We make multiple trades, myself and Tyler. I don't even know which one.
It was one involving Jerry Jeudy. At least that might have been a different Shane, but either way.
I don't know. Jerry Judy's been involved in several of my trades, for and against. He's not someone that I'm particularly looking to acquire in many dynasty leagues unless I can get him really cheap.
I mean, you're not, thinking that he could end up with Aaron Rodgers next year, or with a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater, which could elevate his value.
Yeah. I mean, so if I can get him for a reasonable price, I'll go ahead and take that risk. That if he gets Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know who else is out there, Jimmy Garoppolo, that he'll be a productive and useful wide receiver too.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out there. We will talk about him here in this first segment. So let's actually kick it off with the quarterbacks that could be switching teams. We have Aaron Rodgers, we have Russell Wilson, we have Kirk Cousins, Sean Watson, Jimmy Garoppolo. Out of those 5 quarterbacks that I named, which one are you thinking will be the most likely to switch teams this offseason?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Why is that?
Because they drafted Trey Lance and traded everything in sight for him. And Jimmy was, Jimmy was doing Jimmy things last week against the Cowboys, where it looks like they got the game wrapped up, and then Jimmy's like, "Oh no, you don't! I'm going to throw an interception just because." I think Jimmy's a good game manager. I think he's a slightly above average quarterback, but you don't put that kind of draft capital and make the moves they did so that you can sit Lance for 2 years. I would hope not.
Yeah, and I would hope not either. But I mean, if Jimmy Garoppolo goes out and hypothetically wins the Super Bowl, which, I don't know if they can actually even beat the Packers in the divisional playoffs, but if he ends up going out and winning the Super Bowl, I mean, is this something as to where the 49ers would be looking to trade him, or would it take the perfect offer in order to do so? We're
not going to have to worry about that. I mean, that's not going to happen.
All right, so let's go with more of a fantasy aspect then.
Okay.
Jimmy Garoppolo has been very good for almost all the players on the 49ers roster outside of George Kittle, which is more of the play calling, I believe, than it's actually Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle. When Trey Lance steps on the field, he hyper targets the shit out of Deebo Samuel. Meanwhile, Ayuk sees a little bit of work, but not much. He doesn't target the center of the field at all, so Kittle pretty much is irrelevant to an extent. I mean, is this a good move for the 49ers offense for fantasy purposes if Trey Lance does take over?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to be concerned because he's going to run, obviously, right? I mean, so that's going to take away pass attempts. They didn't use Elijah Mitchell much in the passing game anyway, so I don't think we need to worry about that. I do worry about Kittle, but we've kind of already seen the floor for Kittle, I think. I can't imagine it gets much worse. So maybe status quo. And they'd be just silly not to use Deebo. So I can't see it hurting really any of the fantasy assets to put a better quarterback back there. Only thing is the passing volume could decrease because obviously Lance is a pretty big dude and he's super mobile.
Yeah, I like having mobile quarterbacks because they extend drives, right? They create plays. They can extend plays for players like Deebo Samuel, who I'm not saying it takes him a while to get open, but the more time that he has, the more open he's going to be. Same deal with Brandon Ayuk. It makes me a little bit nervous for all the aspects. And, for that reason, I would be looking to move players like George Kittle and possibly Deebo Samuel and, of course, Brandon Ayuk for what I can get. Now, I'm not saying, you take a second-round pick for Deebo Samuel or even a first-round pick for Deebo Samuel. But if I can get the right price, maybe 2 first-round picks that are mid to early, I might be looking to do that. Are you on the page of trying to move Deebo Samuel for 2 firsts, or would you hold on to him for that price?
I mean, most players I'm willing to trade for 2 firsts, assuming they're not late. But it's going to obviously, here it comes, depend on roster construction. I don't want to just trade every player I have because of value wise, it makes sense. So if I got a team that I think it's going to win next year, I'm not really looking to trade away Deebo. But there is always the other pivot is trade Deebo for a wide receiver 2 or someone in that range and a first. And that way you get some of the production back and you get another chance with that pick to get a Deebo-like wide receiver, running back, or whatever other position you want to attack. If it's super flex, I think you need to look into doing trading him for 2 firsts if you can get that.
Now, I feel like, with another quarterback, transition a little bit. I feel like Russell Wilson, right? He's a big talk to be a train candidate, this season. And everybody's talking about where he can go and what he can do for his receivers. But Seattle is in a really shitty position if they do move Russell Wilson without getting a quarterback in return that could support this offense because they have Tyler Lockett, who they just signed to a massive contract. They have DK Metcalf, who will be coming up on a contract, very shortly. Meanwhile, the running back position, that might be short-lived to an extent. I mean, what does Seattle do? And what happens to this offense if Russell Wilson does leave? Do they go and draft a rookie? Do they try and get a veteran? What's happening here?
Geno Smith, baby. Geno Smith. Remember how much we loved him for that one game? Oh, shit. Yeah.
Clean, clean.
You got to get a quarterback in return, except which team can you trade with to get a quarterback? I don't think the Eagles are going to give up Jalen Hurts and every first-round draft pick for Russ Wilson. And they've actually came out today and said that Hurts is their starter next year. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. I mean, independent of trading Russ, you might have to then go out and then trade for another quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback I'm just moving around to every team, except that, they're in the same conference. So I don't see that happening. Draft wise, yeah, if they get top 7 pick, they could draft Corral or I guess Kenny Pickett, or maybe, later in the first get Malik Willis. I'd be fine with that, but you're going to have to do something. I mean, there's always the Andy Daltons of the world too, right? You just get a guy like that to get you through a year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the values surrounding Russell Wilson with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I think that no matter who they bring in.
Oh, Chase is frozen. I don't know what he's going to say.
Oh, I did freeze for a second there. Am I still frozen with you?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, cool. So Carson Wentz is a name that comes to mind with me, but regardless of who they replace at the quarterback position, I mean, they're going to take a hit because Russell Wilson is one of those quarterbacks that, is able to do things with limited passing attempts. He can create efficiency inside an offense without needing to see 40 passing attempts. And that's very rare, all across the board at quarterback. So, regardless, somebody like Tyler Lockett, I'd already be trying to move a long time ago. And DK Metcalf, if I'm getting, another top 5 receiver, if I'm getting a stud running back, I think I'd be willing to make that move, if I could also receive a back end prospect as well when it comes to the running back position or trading for a stud running back. What would it take you to come off of DK Metcalf? And, would you be looking to move him, or is he somebody that you would just be willing to hear offers on?
No, I'm not looking to move DK. I don't think he's still 24. He's not coming off a monster season because he had those 5 or 6 games where Russell was ignoring him for morality reasons.
That's so funny to me.
If anything, I think I'd be trying to get some DK on my team. Now, we were talking about Debo. Now, if I could trade Debo for DK, and obviously you're not getting the first back with him, but if you could get DK, so maybe trade Debo in a third and get back DK in a second, that might be a move that I look to make, or even DK in a first for Debo in a second. You try that. I might be looking to do something like that. You're sounding a little high on Debo, who was phenomenal last year. You got to give him that. And DK, you're getting a little low on him.
I actually love that take. That was one of my favorite things you might have ever said on the show, Shane. So
look, we're all about the pivots. All about the pivots on the Mannequin Chill and the Dynasty trades in 5. You know what I mean? It's always pivoting. Always be pivoting.
I told you, this show is right up your alley. So I'm stoked that you were actually able to make this one and we can make it happen. So let's talk about a player that's not able to make it happen this year. And that was Big Ben, who got his team to the playoffs, but was absolutely terrible the entire season. He's moving on. And it got me thinking, I wanted to take a little look at some of these players' ages, right? And we have Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady, who of course are up there. But I didn't realize that Matt Ryan is just right behind Aaron Rodgers in terms of age. He's only a year younger.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if it's a full year younger. I think it's 6 months or something younger. Either way, we're looking at Matt Ryan as, a guy who not only is going to play this upcoming year, likely for the Atlanta Falcons because of the contract situation, but then after that can go to a team and helped win a team a Super Bowl. And honestly, I feel like Matt Ryan, although he did have issues with his wide receiver corps, it still looks like Matt Ryan might be on the way out. And when we sit there, we see other quarterbacks like Stafford, who's 3 years younger. I believe Russell Wilson's also 3 or 4 years younger. I mean, we're seeing a massive gap essentially in retired quarterbacks versus like the youth that's coming up. So my question to you is, when it comes to players like Derek Carr, Jimmy G, Carson Wentz, they're turning 29 to 31, right? They're in that sweet spot where the quarterback should be at the pinnacle of their careers. But yet these 3 players haven't been able to perform at a high level, whether it's due to Derek Carr not having weapons, Jimmy G being hurt, Carson Wentz just being all over the place, whether it's bad coaching,
well, let's not
injuries
just
or whatever.
Let's not just put it Jimmy G on being injured. There's also that he's not. I mean, he's just an average quarterback. He's like slightly above Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay, yeah, I mean, well, slightly above Ted. That's a little rough. That's a little rough, Shane.
Well, I consider Teddy's probably a little below average, and then Jimmy's slightly above average. Like, so let's say the scale is 100, right? So 50's average. So you got Jimmy, he's like a 53 or so. Teddy's probably like a 48. So they're living in the same
high praise for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, what are we looking to do for these quarterbacks? And with the draft class that's coming in for 2022, would you rather have a rookie in this draft class? Depending which one it is, obviously, or take one of these veteran quarterbacks and hope to get another 5-6 years of usage out of him before you see a decline.
I don't want 5 or 6 years of mediocrity. These are all guys that are going to be QB2s, low-end QB2s at that.
Derek Carr was a QB1 this year.
Hold on. If given the choice, Carr is the one guy, I think. And it's funny because I couldn't stand them before the season. But if given the choice, I'd go Carr, Wentz. Matt Ryan is way below because I think Matt Ryan is pretty much done. And I don't even Dynasty. I don't think 6 years out because there's no way that anyone on my roster is going to be on my roster in 6 years. It's funny because it's called Dynasty, but from being in Dynasty leagues, the only thing we like more than drafting is trading. As soon as we get a player, we're like, I wonder what I can get for this player.
Pretty much. I did that with Terry McLaurin.
So, and I like upside. So, I'll probably, not probably, 100%, I would take Malik Willis over any of these guys, assuming he gets the requisite draft capital. If he ends up being a day 2, day 3 guy, well, then no. But I got a feeling he'll be drafted in the first round. And guess what? I'll take him over every QB2 on the planet, even though the bust rate might be high, because I can find QB2s fairly easily, even if I'm streaming some of them. Elite QB1s are what's harder to find, so that's what I'm shooting for.
What about if it's 2-quarterback league and you're required to start that second quarterback and you need some stability on that back end?
Yeah, start 2 QB. It definitely changes the composition, but I'm still I have a way that I play. I'm always going to play more risky than most people. That said, I'll probably try to make sure I have a guy like Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, or even, oh God, help me, Baker Mayfield in my QB3 role so that I can throw them in when I have to. Or if, Malik Willis doesn't start week 1, or Justin Fields doesn't start week 1, like, this year, or Trey Lance doesn't start week 1. Yeah.
Break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
So, we have multiple teams that are looking for quarterbacks, right? Like Washington could be one, which makes for an interesting spot for a player like Malik Willis, who needs to develop a little bit more. We need to see what we have in him. And Taylor Heinicke is fine starting one more year. So is there a rookie, right? I know it's not great, but he can do it. Taylor Heinicke can
physically.
do it.
Yes, physically he can start football games.
Yes, he can. Yeah. And it's not like he had a bunch of weapons or anything to throw to. So hopefully they increase
stop it.
weapons over there for Washington.
Yeah, poor guy. All he had was what's that guy's name? Oh, Terry McLaurin.
Hey, that was the only one. No, but is there a certain situation that you want to see any one of these rookie quarterbacks in, right? Like any team that you're like, damn, like I wish that they could actually acquire a rookie, or I wish that this team would draft a rookie quarterback and see him develop, or give him a chance to start in year 1. I know we don't have a lot of head coaching spots yet. A lot of things are up in the air, but Is there any team in particular that you're looking at?
No, and honestly, I mean, because there's going to be a lot of these quarterbacks that probably are falling to the middle of the rounds. So you're going to see guys trade up. But I guess New Orleans is probably the place, right? Because Sean Payton's a genius. At least he was when he had Drew Brees. So let's see what he can do with a rookie quarterback. I am interested to see what the Falcons do. I know Ryan's there for one more year, but that's pretty much it. I would like to see if they take a quarterback in the back of the first round, or if, you know what I mean, like trade up or something like that to get a pick in the back of the first round, try to get that 5th year locked in, or at least the rights to. Pittsburgh, I know they were talking today about starting Dwayne Haskins and or Mason Rudolph. He can't be serious. He can't be serious. That's a great role for a quarterback that's competent to step into. I mean, we just saw Ben just absolutely waste Chase Claypool. I mean, you got Deontay Johnson, James Washington. I don't know if he'll be back yet, but you got Pat Freiermuth, and you got a nice little dump off valve in Najee Harris. So that's another spot I would really like to see someone at.
So I'm a little bit concerned / curious about Pittsburgh, right? Because we've seen certain quarterbacks go to Green Bay, go to New England, and essentially they get a starting job, with another organization. And whether they're good or not, it's up in the air. But we've seen like Matt Castle, for example, Brian Hoyer, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, those weren't good quarterbacks, but the organization made them look good. Then we had, quarterbacks under Aaron Rodgers, right? Like Brett Hundley and a few others that they looked good temporarily, and they weren't good, but Green Bay made them look good. There has never been a backup quarterback that has looked good for Pittsburgh that I can remember. I mean, even when they drafted them, and they just haven't seen any of their backups look good. And they've seen opportunities to do so because Ben Roethlisberger's missed a game here, a game there, and yet all of them have looked horrendous. So I'm a little bit concerned at how they develop quarterbacks over there.
But Roethlisberger's looked horrible too the last 3-4 years too. So I don't know if it's them. And look, Mason Rudolph was a day 2 guy, right? There's a reason quarterbacks that don't go on day 1 don't hit. I mean, it's very rare that they do. Duck Hodges, I don't even remember where he came from. Like, he was just like this urban legend that just manifested on the field one day, and he was playing football. Who else have they had? They had the rocket scientist, who again was a later draft pick. I forget his name. Dobbs.
Yeah, Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah. He's a rocket scientist, but he was not a great football player. Like, they haven't really invested in the quarterback position because they had Ben. And even though he would miss a game here and there, for the most part, he was pretty durable for a fat rapist.
Yeah. So I don't, the Steelers make me nervous, but the Steelers were on my list. Atlanta was on my list as well. The other one is Denver because, Aaron Rodgers was a favorite for me to go to Denver. The closer I get, the more nervous that I am that he's going to stay with Green Bay. And this time last year, even, as we got closer in the season, I thought there was no way that he was going to end up back in Green Bay, for 2022, not for 2021. I always thought he was going to play in 2021. But 2022, I was just like, there's no way that he ends up back in Green Bay. I'm starting to feel a little bit less confident in my take on that. And so I feel like they're going to either need to bring in a veteran, which they've tried 100 times and have not been able to solve, or they draft a rookie. And they can still draft a rookie and be able to function with a lot of these contracts on, because they do have a lot of their studs still on their rookie contracts. Cortland Sutton didn't sign the most massive contract the entire year, plus the salary cap's going to go up. So they can still function and optimize their defense and their offense, with a rookie quarterback at the helm. I like Denver taking rookie quarterback as well. So that's another spot for me. Now, as for the 2021 rookie quarterbacks, we had pretty much a slate full of disappointments outside of Mac Jones, which ended in a disappointment anyways. Meanwhile, Mac Jones for fantasy, he doesn't look like he's going to be an optimal fantasy producer for years and years to come. He looks like he can be good, back-end QB1, high-end QB2. But as for these 2022 sophomores, which one are you going to be investing in the most? Which one do you think from here on out is the guy to go after, whether it has to do with value or whether it has to do with talent? Where are you sitting on the 2022 sophomore quarterbacks?
So, I mean, it's hard not to like Justin Fields and Trey Lance, we saw what Justin Field could do when given a little bit of freedom. We saw what he could do with his legs, and he was just tied to such a bad situation with Matt Nagy and the ghost of Allen Robinson and nothing else there. Trevor Lawrence, if I can get him at a discount, I'll go ahead and do that. I know a lot of people are probably really disappointed in his season last year, and they could write him off as a bust. So, last year he wouldn't have been attainable. But if I could get him this year, great. But I don't think I tried to get these guys in rookie drafts last year because I didn't want to have to chase them again. You know what I mean? Like this is why I got them in rookie drafts and startups, because I didn't want to have to chase them in 2022. I was completely expecting them all to have better seasons than they did, and their price to skyrocket. I think Fields and Lance, you're not going to get much of any of a discount on them. If you're trying to get any discount at all, it's on Lawrence, and it's probably not going to be as much as you're comfortable with after the season he had. Zach Wilson, whatever.
Zach Wilson did impress over the last few games of the season. It seemed like he kind of figured things out.
He was better. He was better. Look, if you liked Zach Wilson going into last year's class or last year's draft, you should still like Zach Wilson, because I don't think anyone expected him to come to a Jets offense with a new, a whole new regime, and quite frankly, just not a very good offense, and to just be gangbusters. Mack is going to be, I think his ceiling is low end QB1, and that's his absolute ceiling. And that's no disrespect to him. I got a feeling he's going to live in that 12 to 18 range. No one's going to trade him for cheap, because his real football success is colored his fantasy value.
Yeah, I feel like he has the upside of Kirk Cousins. Meanwhile, not nearly the floor, so he's a safer option, which is why I like having him on my roster as that, emergency option, as that guy to be my QB2. And I think that he's cheap enough to acquire as like a throw-in if you're going to, have two higher priced players. You're like, hey, throw in Mac Jones for me on the side over there. So when we go, let's transition from the quarterbacks over to the wide receivers. And I want to talk about the receivers that look like they're going to be the guys attached to these sophomore quarterbacks. So we have Brandon Ayuk, who's going to be attached to to Trey Lance, right? And I don't want to bring up Deebo Samuel because I think that's a little bit too much of an increase in value compared to these other players, because we got Brandon Ayuk, we have DJ Chark, we have Jacoby Myers, or you could say Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, whoever you want to bring up over there, Darnell Mooney, and then Elijah Moore. All these guys are pretty young overall, so I don't think that you're looking at one of these guys is like, oh man, you're only going to have him for a couple years worth of production. But I feel like some of these guys have a lot higher ceiling than the others do. So out of those receivers that I named, you gotta fuck one, you gotta kill one, you gotta marry one, you gotta wine and dine one.
I'll kill Jakoby Myers.
You gotta take their mother out on a date and never call her again on another.
Well, that's most mothers. Darnell Mooney, I still think there's more there. He had a great year. He did have 140 targets. It's hard to see him ever seeing that target volume again. Is the one thing.
It didn't feel like it at all.
No, but I'm hoping maybe what he loses in target volume, maybe he makes up in yards per reception. Maybe some deep shots. Ayuk, I don't know what to do with him. Coming into the year, I thought, okay, he's going to be fine. Like he took Debo's job, and we clearly saw when Debo came back and Debo was healthy. Like, no, that's Debo's offense, and Brandon Ayuk is a distant second. I still like him enough. If I can get him at a discount, sure. He's probably a guy that's fallen into that Jerry Jeudy range. I'm fine with them. I'm not going out of my way. They're not going to be my main target in any trade, most likely. I throw a couple seconds at people to see if they would give them up for that.
Oh, God. I would take that and run with it if I got 2 seconds for him.
Yep, same.
Even DJ Chark makes for an interesting case because he didn't really have a chance this year.
Yeah.
He can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's on the field, he's productive.
He was productive 1 year.
Yes.
And he's never been productive outside of that. His rookie year, he was a complete bust, which already, set the foundation and generally means you're going to be a bust after that for your career. He had a great sophomore season. And then what was it? Year 3 he was just meh. And then year 4, he's hurt.
Well, he had a great start to the sophomore campaign until they figured out Gardner Minshew, and they saw how limited Gardner Minshew was. Once you took away, the easier routes, if your players weren't wide open, and even if they were, Gardner Minshew missed a lot of throws on that. So I'm somebody that I like DJ Chark. I like him more than I like Laviska Shenault. And if I can get DJ Chark for like an early 3rd round pick, like if I have an early 3rd, I think I'd pull the trigger on that one. Maybe even late 2nd in this draft class in 2022, a late 2nd. I think I would actually pull the trigger on that. We have a question coming in from Jamie real quick. Would you trade Kupp for Lamb or AJ Brown straight up? Which side would you rather have? He sees people asking for Lamb or Brown for Kupp plus add-ons and vice versa.
Wow, that's so many moving parts there. I don't even understand what the offer is, but I would trade Kupp for AJ Brown straight up. But if I own Kupp, I'm going to ask for more back. I'd accept AJ Brown, but I would definitely try, like I said, adding picks to your side, and maybe even trying to add in maybe a DJ Chark if it's a big roster, a player like Jerry Jeudy, and throwing you back like a 3rd to try to make it happen. Because if I have Kupp, like I said, I'm going to try to get more value out of you for Brown. For Lamb, Lamb's been the whipping boy on Twitter for the last week after they caught up with mine and Scott's patron chats, which were like 3 weeks ahead of everyone as usual. I wouldn't do Lamb straight up for Kupp because, again, value-wise, I should get more back for Kupp. Kupp was the wide receiver 1. I know he's 28, 29. Yes, he's 29 years old. I get that. I understand. Elite wide receivers generally produce through their age 31 season. Elite wide receivers, not all of them, but elite wide receivers. So you probably got 2 or 3 more years where you could bank on the production. The value's obviously not going to be there because, well, he's a 29-year-old wide receiver, and we hate those in Dynasty. I don't know that we hate anything more than that.
29 is where I hate him the most.
Yeah. It's like women, though, right? They're like almost 30, and you're like, whoa. So
at least you didn't say at 17.
Jesus Christ, no. So all that to say, I would do AJ Brown straight up. I'd love to get AJ Brown for Cooper Kupp straight up. Lamb, I'd probably try to extract a little more as the Kupp owner.
Are you talking about maybe like a Christian Kirk or maybe like a Juju Smith-Schuster? Or do you want more than that?
No, that'd be plenty. That'd be enough. That'd be enough to sway me. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, we're not talking like, Kupp's obviously doesn't have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase value, but he's got just a little more value that I feel like you got to give me something a little more. Yeah, and if not, because if I roster Kupp, I have no incentive to sell him right now unless you give me a reason to. If I'm not going to get the value, well, I'll just hold him till next year, and he'll do the same thing for me, or my team will be bad, and I can get the same prices that I'm going to get today for him.
In startups, Kupp will be a late first-round pick at the worst. And so when you take that comparison and you hear all the hype coming out about how Kupp should be higher in dynasty rankings, et cetera, like, you're only going to gain value from now until the start of the season, although it might just be a little bit. And I would take, like I said, somebody offered me AJ Brown, I'm taking it. Somebody offered me CeeDee Lamb, I'd probably get close to taking it. I might ask for, a late 2nd, early 3rd round pick, and that'd be enough for me. But
Kupp, right now, Kupp's the DLF mock drafts, wide receiver 6, going 26th off the board in Superflex, which, that's pretty high for a 29-year-old. I get it. But you hold the hammer. He's yours. Hold him. There's nothing wrong with having production on your roster as long as you don't have a team full of 29-year-old wide receivers.
All right, so let's go into the free agent receivers, right? We have like the big time ones, the 3 big ones, which are going to be Godwin, Adams, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but even Odell Beckham might actually have a chance.
You're just going to ignore Smith-Schuster?
I am for now because I like Juju Smith-Schuster, but I think I'm way higher on him than everybody else is. Okay. So I love Juju Smith-Schuster, but him coming off an injury,
I'll take him over Odell.
Easily. He only commanded a $10 million contract on 1 year prove-it deal, so it's not like he got a lot of money. I think that Odell has the potential to break the bank more so than Juju Smith-Schuster, because if Juju Smith-Schuster came off of a 1-year contract for $10 million, I don't know how it could be better than that. $10 million was probably the 5th highest paid wide receiver on free agency last year. So I'm going to go with Beckham for this purpose, Adams and Godwin. Do these guys have any chance of leaving their teams and going elsewhere?
I mean, Adams does, right? So if Rodgers actually packs his bags and goes home or goes somewhere else, I could see Devontae Adams leaving. I have a feeling like you do, though, that Rodgers is going to be back there and that Adams is going to be back there.
So Adams said, supposedly, he made a hint towards saying that he would play on a franchise tag, which, I mean, I don't love that. I don't think that he will personally, but supposedly he made a hint towards it at some point in time. But like I said, I think that he could go somewhere else, but Adams to me seems like the least likely because of that tag. I don't think they can do it to Godwin because they ended up using it last year, if I'm correct.
I believe so. And Godwin's coming off that ACL, and I'm not even sure they'd want to tag him, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that Godwin stays there. I hope to God that Godwin stays there. But, I think that he could still have value in other places. Maybe go into the Panthers if the Panthers revamp their quarterback situation. Maybe they bring in a stud, hopefully, maybe. I don't know if they do.
Trying to just end DJ Moore. It's hard enough for DJ Moore.
I want DJ Moore to stay in the slot, but they keep on working him out of the slot. It's like he succeeds in the slot, and they're like, oh, well, everybody else is not succeeding around him, so we need to move him to a less advantageous situation instead of leaving him in the slot. It's the most frustrating thing to watch, but I think that he could go there. I don't want him to, but I think that he could. I love DJ Moore. He's one of my favorite wide receivers. There's a couple different spots that Godwin could end up and could see high levels of production. And I think that he's probably going to be the highest paid wide receiver, on this free agent class outside of Adams, pending Adams, franchise tag. As for Beckham, I don't know that Beckham would want to leave. I mean, he's seen 8 red zone targets in the past 6 games.
Yeah. What do you have? 6 touchdowns in 9 games, something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in the first game that he played, he only played 15 snaps. So it's really 6 touchdowns in 8 games. So
yeah. I mean, look, he's going to go wherever the bag is biggest. That's how it goes. I can't fault those guys for that.
You think that's really going to be the case, though, with Beckham and already getting the bag from 2 different organizations?
Yeah. I mean, he only got it from, that contract was signed with the Giants. The Browns had to pay it after the fact, after they traded for him. But look, man, 30 years old, you only play, look, this is your commodity is you, right? Like you best believe that I'm going to sign with whoever's going to give me the most money. That's probably going to be my first thought. My second is then going to be, all right, well, we're going to win. There's a chance we can win, right? If I don't know, I don't imagine the Rams cap situation is going to look very good next year. Although I don't know that it matters. They'll find a way to give him a $15 million deal or $45 million deal over 3 years where none of it counts towards the cap and 13% of it is a roster bonus and 18% is workout bonuses or whatever. I could see him staying in LA. It is LA now, right? Yeah, LA, if they could find a way to squeeze him in there.
Yeah, I think that Beckham stays most likely. I don't think that they're going to have to overload that contract, overload that salary to make it work for him. If they go out and they get close to win a Super Bowl, if they win a Super Bowl this year, I think that he's going to want to be back with a team that's winning. You've seen his frustrations on the field. You've seen how pissed off that he's gotten when he's not getting the targets, and he looks like he's actually happy for once right now, which is weird.
That is a good point. He definitely looks like he's having fun on the football field again. But that's what happens when, they let you throw a 40-yard bomb to a running back.
Yes. And he's actually doing that quite well. Have you seen the Ian Hartitz tweets lately talking about how Odell Beckham is the best quarterback to play over the past 10 years or something? I love it. All right, so let's talk about some of these receivers that could get overpaid in 2022. We have Christian Kirk, we have Michael Gallup, we have Zay Jones, and we have Will Fuller. And I'm going to start this out by saying, is there any quarterback in the NFL that has gotten wide receivers overpaid like Derek Carr has? I mean, holy shit. We talk about Amari Cooper. We talk about, Nelson Aguilar, right? We talk about Terrence Williams. Terrence Williams? No.
You're talking about with the Cowboys many years ago?
No, I didn't mean Terrence Williams. I meant God,
Mike
who's the
Williams?
speedster? No, the speedster that played for the Chargers and then went to the Raiders for 1 year, and then ended up signing this past year with
Terrell
the Lions.
Williams.
Terrell Williams, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got him overpaid.
You left Kenny Galladay out of that talk, by the way. He got overpaid.
Yeah, well, no, I was talking about Derek Carr getting all these wide receivers overpaid.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Darren Waller to an extent, right? Like, he's getting overpaid.
Calm down.
The next one after Zay Jones is going to be Hunter Renfrow. But no, I mean, like, which one of these wide receivers is going to be overpaid in 2022? We have Christian Kirk, who's, supposed to be this breakout type player and really hasn't done anything thus far in the NFL, but for some reason, everybody still loves him. Get Michael Gallup, who now has 2 years of injuries and, is primarily just a deep threat guy who can sometimes make plays, with whether you pin that on, whether you pin that on Dak Prescott or whether you pin that on the offense, whatever it is. And then you have Zay Jones, who broke out later in the year, and it looked like Nelson Aguilar 2.0. And then Will Fuller, who could get paid for 2 years in a row.
Will Fuller's not getting much. I don't think any of these guys are going to break the bank. I can't foresee anyone. The only one I see breaking the bank are like the names that we already talked about in Juju. Gallup maybe, but yeah, coming off 2 years of injury, I don't know how, again, and he had a late season injury. I don't know how teams are going to feel about giving him a ton of money. Like him and even Godwin might end up having to take 1 year deal, just prove it deals, just to show that they could come back at some point next season and produce. If anyone's going to get overpaid, I got a feeling it's going to be Christian Kirk. Someone's going to fall in love with him, just like fantasy football players did during his rookie draft. And we all thought he was going to just come in and just be great. And we made excuses for him up until about last year. Yeah, we stopped making excuses for him last year. So I think some GM is going to fall in love with his traits and go, well, if we just do this with this guy, he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, that's typically how it goes with some of these underwhelming players. We saw it big time in 2021 in that offseason. I mean, I never thought in a million years some of those contracts that went out actually went out like they did. But I do want to bring up, of course, the last two guys that didn't have great 2021s that have a chance to emerge and break the bank when we talk about Allen Robinson and Juju Smith-Schuster. So of those two, which one do you think is a better signing for an NFL team? Which one sees the most targets without having any yards after the catch whatsoever? And which one ends up getting completely dismissed as we move into 2022?
We said Smith-Schuster and who?
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson is on the bottom of all of those, just every category. I mean, look, Allen Robinson, he was great. Like every year we talked about how great he was with bad quarterback play and, but I'm ready to move on after this year. I don't like what I saw out of him. I don't like what I saw when he was on the field, when he didn't even look like he was trying. That's the bad dog, right? You want the good dog in people when they're fighting, and he didn't seem to have that in him at all this year. 29. Yeah, he'll be 29 next season. He's a declining asset. I trust Juju much more. Juju can at least rehab his dynasty value. Even if Allen comes out and smashes next year and proves me wrong and has 1,200 receiving yards, guess what? He'll be 29 at that point. And then
everybody's going to hate him.
And exactly. We're just talking about Cooper Kupp just coming off the wide receiver one season by a good bit. Damn near one of the greatest wide receiver seasons in the history of football. And, you're looking to sell, and you already know that you probably can't get exactly what you want. So you're not going to do better with Allen Robinson, even if he comes back next year and smashes.
So let's go ahead and let's play the game that I was telling you about. We're going to play the age game, right? We're going to say, is this running back older or younger in fantasy world than Shane Manila? So, no, I'm just kidding. We're going to sit there and I'm going to have you guess the ages of these players. If you get it right, I'm going to have you see if you can guess how much money they made in 2021.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I got no chance at any of this. Go for it.
All right, we're going to start it out easy. Melvin Gordon.
Oh, Melvin Gordon's 28.
28?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give that to you. He's 28. He'll be turning 29 in like a month.
Right. He's technically 28.
He is 28.
Yeah.
All right. How much money did he make in 2021?
I'm going to guess 15 million.
In 2021 alone?
Yeah.
8 million.
That's not even close. Not even close. My first clue that I was wrong is you said 2020 alone.
His contract is a weird one anyways. All right, so with Melvin Gordon, does he end up going back to the Denver Broncos to ruin all of our Javonte Williams dreams, or does he end up going and ruining somebody else's dreams with another team?
No, he's going to go.
There's no way he's going to see a solo role.
I want to see him in Arizona. That's where I want to see him personally.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'd like them in Arizona, and they could get rid of Chase Edmonds and just, James Conner can go find somewhere else to play, or maybe they'll bring back James Conner and they'll ruin each other. I don't think he'll come back to Denver, although they apparently really like Denver, and he was really productive this year. Like, I know everybody hated him, and they all just wanted Javonte Williams just to get the ball all the time.
He was very productive.
The reason Gordon was getting the balls because he was producing. I mean, he was bad. He had one objectively bad game. And unfortunately for me, it came in the fantasy playoffs. But, I mean, he was good all year.
All right, so David Johnson, is he younger or older than Melvin Gordon?
David Johnson from Arizona?
From the Texans.
Oh, the Texans
Yes.
now. Yeah, he's older.
By how much? How old is David Johnson?
He's 30.
Yeah, nailed it right on the head.
Yeah, I know that because I've been watching his age since he was a 25-year-old rookie.
All right. Did he make more or less money in 2021 than Melvin Gordon?
Oh, my God. I hope that he did. He made more because that was off that Arizona contract, wasn't it?
They restructured the deal and made $5 million. He's now a free agent.
Still too much.
Yeah, so David Johnson, I don't think has any chance of landing back with the Texans. Is there a team that you think that he could go to and bring his 3 weeks of production with?
No.
All right, so David Johnson is dead when it comes to running back. So there's no Deonta Freeman left or season left in him, nothing like that.
No, his Devontae Freeman season was like 2 years. It was literally 2 years ago.
Technically, I think Devonta Freeman's like 28.
Yeah.
All right, so we have up next Leonard Fournette. How old is Leonard Fournette?
Leonard Fournette is 27 years old.
Right on the dot. I think he just had a birthday, actually.
Yeah.
Did he make, or how much money did he make in 2021?
See, David Johnson made 5. Melvin Gordon made 8. So I'm going to think playoff Lenny made $4.35 million.
That was actually kind of close. It was 3.250.
Oh, I had my numbers jumbled up. Yeah.
It was still good. That was still a good guess. Leonard Fournette, does he go back to Tampa Bay? Does Tom Brady demand that he's back, or is it time to unleash Keyshawn Vaughn?
Yeah, no, I think playoff Lenny needs to go back to Tampa Bay. That seems to be a great fit for him, right? He's the pass catcher du jour there. He gets the goal line work. I mean, he just that was a great fit for him, and he's got Tom Brady's trust. And if Tom Brady wants to come back one more year, they're going to bring back whoever Tom Brady wants back. And I think he's going to want Leonard Fournette way over Keyshawn Vaughn.
Dude, how crazy would it be if like a third of their team retires the same year? Like you could have Tom Brady. You could have Tom Brady, retire. You could have Leonard Fournette essentially retire, and you could have Rob Gronkowski retire, Mike Evans retire, all within like 5 years from now, right? Because that's about when Tom Brady's going to leave, is when he turns 48 years old. Yeah, so I think that Leonard Fournette does end up back in Tampa Bay. I don't think there's any chance of him leaving. I think that Tom Brady wants his trusted, steeds next to him in the backfield. And I don't see any chance of Keyshawn Vaughn actually getting a primary role without an injury to Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
All right. What about Cordell Patterson? This one's interesting. Cordell Patterson.
He is 30.
Yep. He's about to be 31. Cordell Patterson, I don't even know how much money he made off the top of my head. Yeah, go ahead. Did he make less money than Leonard Fournette, actually?
Probably less.
Slightly less. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Cordell Patterson, does he end up on a team that just needs a pass catching running back? Does he get a big contract this year? Did he show that he wears down throughout a season because he completely fell off at the tail end? Or does the team take a shot at him with like a primary running back who sees the bulk of the work and they just need an explosion, in the backfield?
I don't think he should be a primary back. I think how Atlanta used him in the beginning of the year is how he should have been used. And I think since Atlanta is the only offense, the only team that's ever used him correctly, he should go back to Atlanta. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's a great complementary back weapon there. And they can get a better starter than Mike Davis, who is trash. And I think that'd be a pretty lethal combo. I don't think no one's going to sign a 30-year-old wide receiver no one's going to sign a 30-year-old wide receiver whose best skill set is as a running back. I don't think to any long-term money.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting with Washington because they love these type of players, and I hate the thought of this happening because I want Antonio Gibson to just get all the work, right? I want Antonio Gibson to be catching the passes, playing all three downs, but it just worries me that Ron Rivera will sit there because he's always liked to have multiple different running backs with multiple different skill sets, and, maybe it doesn't work out with the contracts that they signed in 2021, and they decide to charge it with Cordell Patterson. It makes a lot of sense, but I think he should go back to Atlanta, like you said. I just don't know if that happens. All right, Marlon Mack. This is one of my favorite running backs for 2022 in this wide receiver class. How old is Marlon Mack, first off? Or I said wide receiver. I meant running back.
Marlon Mack was, what year we were in 2021? I think he was the 2018 class. I'm going to go at 26.
Pretty much nailed it once again. I think you said you were going to get a bunch of these wrong. So are you cheating?
No, you know what? So here's the thing, because I do so much Dynasty stuff, I'm always looking at ADP, and I'm always looking at, writing articles. You're always like, oh, when he came out in 2018, and you just go, all right, well, let me add 4 years to that. You know what I mean? Or whenever they came out, you just add 4 years to that and guess, like, all right, was he a young declare, or was he David Johnson, who was 36 years old when he came out of college?
Marlon Mack is about to turn 26, I believe, in 2 months. He, tore his Achilles, but obviously Achilles tears don't matter according to Cam Akers. He didn't get an opportunity to show it. He did not get any opportunities, pretty much. I think he saw maybe 5 carries tops for Indianapolis this year. A little bit disappointing, but I thought that they were going to keep him healthy to trade at the deadline. That's what I thought they were doing. That didn't happen. So now he's a free agent. They signed him to a 1-year contract this past year. I don't know why he took it this past year, but he did.
Because he was coming off an Achilles, and he was just trying to get any money, to be quite honest with you.
So now he moves into pretty much any team that he could possibly want after Cam Akers destroyed this whole Achilles, thing. And I think that he could see a 2-year contract where, the first year is fully guaranteed, the second year has nothing on it type thing. Dolphins make a lot of sense. Is there a certain team you want to see Marlon Mack go to?
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. Anywhere he goes, I'm going to be scooping him up. One, because who doesn't like a comeback story? 2, he was just a guy I really liked, and it broke my heart when JT was drafted there because I knew it was the end of him. Yep. Dolphins, but I think the Dolphins have done I think they've probably gone the whole let's just put a guy in here and see what happens route enough. You know what I mean? Like they tried it with Myles Gaskins. They're like, hey, Savon Ahmed, what are you doing? You want to play football here for a little bit? I got a feeling they're going to invest in a running back. I wouldn't mind seeing Mack in, again, New Orleans, assuming Ingram moves on, as Kamara's understudy. He can catch a lot better than anyone's ever really given him credit for.
I remember when he was coming out, they were saying he was going to be a satellite back.
He was a great receiver in college, and for some reason in the pros, they're just like, no, you're a thumper. So, tell you what, how about Cordell Patterson and Marlon Mack? Now,
that makes a lot of sense.
That's somewhere I wouldn't mind them, because they just ran Mike Davis out there a bunch after it was clear that he's bad at football. So if Mack can get over there and show that he's good at football, he could run wild.
I wouldn't mind if he comes at a decent price to go to Miami. He commanded $2 million this past year, didn't get any plays, so I don't think he's going to command any more than $3.5 million. On a 2-year contract, they pay him $5 million. With $3 million guaranteed, the other $2 million not guaranteed, or maybe $6 million, $3 million guaranteed without the $3 million other other side of it being guaranteed in year 2023. I think that Dolphins could stomach that. They came from a very similar building scheme as the Buffalo Bills did. So the Buffalo Bills are somebody that also did not believe in running backs. So I see a very similar system as what the Bills built through, which means that they won't invest in a running back. But if it's cheap enough, I think that it could happen. All right. What about Ronald Jones?
Ronald was an early declare. He's only 25.
Let's see. Ronald Jones is actually 24.
Yeah, he's even younger than that. Yeah, he came out as a 20-year-old. Poor Ronald.
Ronald Jones is somebody that the fantasy community has been completely split on. I wasn't a big Ronald Jones person. I loved his speed and everything. I just didn't see where everybody else loved him. And, I know that he got a couple extra years to develop, and he's shown that he has explosion, which I always thought he believed. I just didn't see his vision. He never had vision. His inability to bounce tackles on the outside, et cetera, et cetera. So he almost makes for a very good running back to fit in a wide zone run scheme where there are plenty of injuries to be had. They're not going to be worried about keeping him healthy. They're not going to be worried about limiting his touch count. I mean, we could see him just run over and over and over again. And so the 49ers kind of come to mind now. I know the 49ers like their cheaper options. But, I mean, we talk about how fast Raheem Mostert was and, how he was able to break away on multiple different opportunities. They now have three rookies, I think, including Hasty on contract. Not rookies, but, young players on contract. None of them can stay healthy whatsoever. So they can invest, $5 million or so per year in a running back over there to bring in Ronald Jones to be the lead back, or maybe at least split time with Elijah Mitchell. Is this something that you like for Ronald Jones? Do you think he's going to stay with Tampa Bay? Is there a better spot?
No, he better get the hell away from Tampa Bay. I don't know where he's going to go. I think it's at some point you just got to pack in your cards and say, look, it's not going to happen, right? Look, I loved Ronald Jones. Every time he's ever gotten the ball, he's been productive, except for when he fumbles it. But for the most part, he drops passes. But most of the time, he's been super productive, and he just rips off big runs. But it's not going to happen. Anywhere he goes, I don't even think he's second on the depth chart. I think he's fighting for second on the depth chart. I don't care. I don't care where he goes. I got to be honest with you. I hope he goes somewhere and he's just buried on the depth chart, so I don't fool myself into thinking that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? No, I just go somewhere where he's like, oh wow, did you know Ronald Jones is a running back 4 on the Bears? Yeah, all right. That's what I need.
Behind Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 2 others from the same team. We got James Conner. We got Chase Edmonds. How old is James Conner? I think this one was deceiving.
Oh, this is hard. I forget. I'm gonna go with 26.
Yep, 26 and 3/4. He's about to turn 27, so he actually nailed that one as well.
Yeah.
Damn.
I think he played all 4 years at Pitt, I think. Or if he didn't play a year, it was because he was beating cancer. Still, no matter, he's always going to be one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to stick around with Arizona, though?
They'd be smart to. I mean, the guy, so they finally realized that he's a good pass catcher towards the end of the year. That was fun. And then, of course, he got banged up towards the end of the year again because that's the James Conner story. Yeah. But, yeah, I think you can't count on him to be the full-time lead back for an entire year. He can do it in spurts. But if you could get him 10 to 15 touches a game, he's really good. But I kind of like that split backfield they had going. Just get someone a little better than Chase Edmonds.
What about Chase Edmonds? How old is he?
He's got to be at least 26 because he had to be a 4-year college player because he went to a small school.
So let's see. Hold up. I lost this one. Chase Edmonds is about to be 26.
Yeah.
He is somebody that I actually liked. I thought he did very well in the limited amount of work that he got before getting hurt. But, I mean, that's Chase Edmonds' whole entire persona as well. I mean, he could play a limited amount of snaps, but the second that he sees over 60, 70% of snaps, he gets hurt. Happens like clockwork. And everybody's like, I was talking about the whole injury prone thing. And I know people hate to hear injury prone, but I'm like, Chase Edmonds cannot handle a full workload. And I got a lot of hate from that. But once again, we saw it this year. And Chase Edmonds has put up the stats to where he could command a decent contract this year from a team that needs a running back. And, out of all the running backs we mentioned, I mean, he has the combination of age, no serious injuries on his record, the ability to pass catch, the ability to make big plays. Like, he has everything that it takes to be a big time running back. So I could see him being the highest paid running back on the slate outside of maybe Leonard Fournette, which Leonard Fournette is going to get a hometown deal anyways.
Yeah, I don't, maybe, but I don't think he's going to get a big contract. I think people kind of look at him as like, this is a guy that's a weapon. He's not a guy that you're going to give 20 touches to. That's just my belief. I could be wrong.
When he does, he explodes, but once again, the health issue is a big deal. So Chase Edmonds, I mean, I don't really have a landing spot for him. I think that he could work with multiple different teams. Is there anywhere where you think he could work specifically, or is it just something like, hey, just get him on a team?
Yeah, he's another one that literally can go anywhere. I want to see him go to a place like Chicago, because then he's going to take targets away from David Montgomery, because he's a much better pass catcher. And David Montgomery, no. That's the only thing, is I don't want him going to a backfield where he's going to hurt the starter that I already roster in fantasy. Where he probably look really good? Washington, because they don't like Antonio Gibson catching passes.
I hate that so much. I hate that so much. Somebody said Saquon Barkley should go to Washington. I'm like, dude, they'll probably make that move in a heartbeat.
I like to see, tell you what, Chase Edmonds in New York, that'd be great, because he'd get at least 4 starts next year.
At least 4 starts.
Devontae Booker outplayed Saquon Barkley. I can only imagine what Chase Edmonds would do there.
Did he tear it up? He really would. Yeah. All right, so I got one more. This one's somewhat of a tricky one for you. Derek Gore.
Well, due to the fact that he's actually Frank Gore in disguise, he's 36 years old.
He'd be like 38 by now.
Yeah, I have literally no idea. I think is he a second year guy? I'll go 23.
So Derek Gore I saw it. I had to put it on this show sheet because it was just so crazy to me. Derek Gore is 27 years old.
Is he that old?
I thought he was a young buck. I swear I thought he was a young buck. He is 27.1 years old according to Spotrac. He played 115 snaps this year, had 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, anytime that he got the ball, he was productive. That was the best part about Derek Gore. If he got the ball, if he got an opportunity, he gave fantasy points. The issue was it had to be a blowout in order for him to get the ball. But he was very good in multiple contests this year. And Derek Gore is somebody that I think will end up back with the Chiefs, and he will end up playing that Darrell Williams, Damian Williams, type role where it's a guy that has no business on a roster, actually making a roster. And, with Darrell Williams, we could see him do what Damian Williams did, which is leave and get a bigger contract because the Chiefs aren't going to pay a running back. So Derek Gore could actually step into that role. And Derek Gore, if I trade a late 3rd round pick, I wouldn't mind trading it for Derek Gore.
Every running back on that roster produces except for Clyde Edwards-Helaire for some reason.
They're all involved in the passing game. They all produce. I love it.
Jet comes in. He's like, sure, I'll score a touchdown.
I was so pissed about Jet because Jet was somebody that I was talking about the entire offseason. I love Jet. And I think you and Jakob both gave me so much shit for it the entire offseason because I was talking about, how he could be the pass catching back, how he's better than Clyde Edwards. He never saw an opportunity. And then he finally gets one. Because
he literally can't. That dude is, injury prone. That dude is made of, just paper mache. Yeah.
It's bad. All right. So I got a couple tight ends to talk about, and then we're going to close out this episode. These tight ends are somebody, all three are tight ends we had high hopes for at some point throughout their fantasy careers. They need to know. We're going to do the fuck, marry, kill actually on this one. We're going to go with David Njoku, O.J. Howard, and Evan Ingram. All three are free agents. That at least one of these guys is going to see a ton of hype because they're going to get a great landing spot. Most likely, 2 of the 3, O.J. Howard and Njoku, are not going to be back with their teams. I don't see O.J. Howard taking a pay cut to be a third-string tight end, and Njoku's dealing with the same thing when both those guys were first-round picks. I don't see Evan Ingram, commanding a massive payday from the Giants after they brought in Kyle Rudolph, and Kyle Rudolph almost outproduced him. I think that Evan Ingram's situation primarily lies on, which quarterback comes to town. If it's a quarterback like Urban Meyer, who never used the tight end, then, forget him ending up back with the Giants. But regardless, like, are any three of these tight ends somebody that you might be willing to send out a pick to, to get some feelers for?
David Njoku. I love David Njoku. Njoku, he's another guy that came out really young from college. So how old is he now? I think he'll be 20. He'll be 26 next year. Next year will be his age 26 season at tight end when they're just ripening. They're just getting ripe. And he's going to be on that second team, which ever since Delaney Walker is a thing. And every time he was targeted this year, he produced. He had 53 targets, 36 receptions, 475 yards. Evan Ingram, I'm done. I'm just done. I am so done with him. Dude, he can't produce. Like, he just can't. Like,
he can't catch.
Well, that's the problem, right? He gets targets.
It's the Deontay Johnson of tight ends.
Yeah, it's not a target share issue. I don't care if they're not using him correctly. Whatever. Stop dropping everything in sight. You're getting targets. Like, you should be able to produce a little bit, right? We're playing in PPR. So you should be getting me like 4 or 5 points just on receptions, but you're not even doing that. So I'm done with him. I guess I'll fuck OJ Howard. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I still like OJ Howard a lot. I think that he's a great tight end. He, ended up having to play with Jameis Winston. He was coached by Bruce Arians, who Bruce Arians doesn't do great with his rookies anyways. He's not a great, developer of talent. He's great with having a bunch of veterans on his team and being able to be like, hey, fuckers, go out there and do this thing. All right. Did you see that video, by the way, of Bruce Arians hitting?
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. I can't stand Arians. He's just yeah.
So I mean, he OJ Howard's been was a young tight end and is now with a team that does not like to develop. OJ Howard needs to go to a team. The Packers make a ton of sense, right? Where he can be the tertiary option, the secondary option in the receiving game, and offer massive upside and massive playmaking ability and be a red zone target for a team that's going to score a bunch of points. I think OJ Howard is a lock for me personally, and I still like Njoku. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
and then of course I'm done with Evan Ingram. I can't stand Evan Ingram.
Yeah, and discounting based on cost, I definitely want both those guys over Evan Ingram. I'm completely finished with him. There's still hope for me for OJ, for David Njoku. OJ Howard's a little older than I thought. He'll be 28 next year. Next year will be his age 28 season. Ooh. But still a guy that I really like, man. He was just such a super athletic freak coming out of college, and he had his first 2 seasons were really good. He just kept getting injured. And then it's just been downhill, man. Yeah,
I mean, 28-year-old breakout, tight ends, anybody? Let's go. Sign me up. Now, I think that the tight end landscape is not going to be nearly as volatile as it was over the previous years. We're going to see, some of these talk from Irv Smith Jr. But I mean, outside of that, like, I don't think you're going to see a bunch of like, oh, this tight end who's ranked 22nd in most people's rankings is going to be a top 5 tight end this year, which is what we've seen in the past. But these 3 tight ends are somebody that I'd be willing, to make a move on while it's still in the offseason, along with Irv Smith Jr., speaking of. But anyways, let's go ahead and get out of here. That's going to finish up our show. Shane, where can we find you, man?
Oh, you can find me on the Twitters at Shane is the worst. There's links to various podcasts and video streams that I do. Dynasty Trades HQ, Dynasty Trades in 5, Manic and Chill, writing for DLF and Fantasy Data. And then where you find me most times, more than any other places, in the Dynasty Trades HQ patron group me chat. So go sign up for that. I'm in there all day, all night, talking with all the homies in there about fantasy football, oddly enough.
Oh, who would have thought? Yeah, and you guys go check us out over there on Twitter at FF_intervention and join our circle _. You guys can also go check us out over there at youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Of course, huge shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion. You guys are here every single week. Keep coming in. Keep joining us. And of course, huge shout out to Trophy Smack. If you guys need a trophy, go to trophysmack.com. Use promo code CIRCLE. When you buy a trophy, and as long as the trophy and the ring are both in your cart, you'll get a free ring along with the trophy, which is valued at $60. Go check it out over there at trophysmack.com. Oh, yeah, Player Profiler and every other place that I pretty much work for. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.
Deuces.